Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Mediums in Action with me, Martin Litt-Wilson, and my good friend and medium, Ian Doherty.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Martin.
It's coming up to Christmas. I know you're not a big Christmas fan. I mean, you must have good memories of Christmas as a child with your mum and family.
Christmas as a kid, it was beautiful. It was magical. I think what took Christmas away for me was being in the forces. I was being single at that time. I was always we'll have to sing this working Christmas. So I worked nearly every Christmas, and then as I got more into my religious beliefs, I just sort of not went away from Christianity. I brought up to my mid-teens until I was, as a Catholic, but church just didn't do it for me. With my science background now, I tend to go towards science in wanting to bring, some education to people. So for me, Christmas has lost its sort of spark and spirit.
It's a strange old festival, really, because, on one hand, it can be a joyous festival for people to come together and talk. But I do know a lot of my friends, and it's quite painful for them. And last Christmas was quite painful because of, obviously, I lost my father. But I think ultimately it is a nice time of year as long as it doesn't give you that sort of anxiety for, buying gifts and all this sort of stuff. I think what's happened is certainly over this last 30 years. I think it's just full on now, where I certainly think in the 60s and maybe 70s, it was a little bit more relaxed. Yes, there was presents and that sort of thing, but surely it wasn't as mad as it is nowadays.
I can recall I used to have, I think, about 20 or 40p off one of my uncles and great aunt, and I couldn't spend it for about a week because everything was shut. And now it just seems that everything is Black Friday, and then people worry why there's nobody out in the streets on Christmas time. It's just over sort of buy. And I think as a culture, it takes the meaning of Christmas away.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of Boxing Day sales, to be honest. For Americans out there or people in other countries, Boxing Day is the day after Christmas Day for us, and if I remember correctly, it's called Boxing Day because that's when the rich people would give their servants their Christmas box. That's why it was called Boxing Day.
I thought it was because they put in the boxes.
In fact, my granddad used to say, "Oh, here's your Christmas box for Christmas gifts." I always wondered, and it's because a lot of people who worked as servants in big houses, and a lot of people were employed, and
yeah.
The day after Christmas Day, because obviously they were working all the way through Christmas Day, the day after Christmas Day was the traditional time when the lord and ladies or whatever would come down and give all the staff a Christmas box, and that's where Boxing Day came from.
Right, so that's interesting.
But yeah, Boxing Day nothing used to be open. There was no shops open, there was no sales, there was nothing, and it felt like there was a Christmas break, a Christmas period where literally as soon as 5 o'clock on Christmas Eve, that was it. You knew for 2-3 days it was just family time, it was just relaxing, it was just and I think we've really lost that, actually. I think it does affect people's overall mentality, that we live in this society where people are looking at mobile phones every 2 minutes, with massive build up to Christmas Eve. We all, it's Christmas, and we have 24 hours, and then at 6 o'clock in the morning, in fact earlier on Christmas night, people are outside big retail stores waiting for the sale. And I think that's some of the magic of what Christmas is about. It's about family connection. It's not about waiting 12 hours for a shop to open to sell you a load of junk. We have to be more sustainable, and I think if we're prepared to go out and just buy a load of rubbish every Boxing Day or every Christmas sale.
Yeah, it is. Like I say, the Black Friday sales, where you see the YouTube videos of people fighting and really kicking into each other over a telly, and it just takes takes everything away. I think as a year culture, certainly, I think it's one of the adding things that I don't look forward to. Well, I would say I don't look forward to at Christmas. I don't celebrate it. I mean, my family do, so I will send them a Christmas card, though I ask people not to send me a card because I don't celebrate it, and I don't want you to think that if I don't send you a card that I don't care about you. So people normally send me New Year's cards. They say happy for this year. And I think, yeah, fine. And that's it, So if I work over Christmas, or I think, with the Witcher series 1 coming out on Netflix, I might just be tied up in that, I think.
Looking back at Christmas traditions, and yes, people, we are going to be talking about ghosts and mediums and spirit. We're not going to be talking about our thoughts on Christmas, but
No.
but yeah, I mean, we look back to the traditions, and when I've done research for my books on when ghosts started to become, kind of popular. And what I mean by that is they were more covered by the regional and national press in the UK and in America. We're talking around 1840, 1850 when we began to see more ghost stories. And at that time, there are a few traditions mentioned. And that tradition is usually there was a Christmas Eve. And then on Christmas Day, you would have the morning for opening gifts or spending time together. But always after Christmas lunch was meeting around the piano. There might have been a few songs. And usually that was then followed by ghost stories. Those ghost stories were either ones that people had heard, but also as well is often they were family ghost stories as well.
Yeah.
So stories that your mother's mother might have told or might have experienced, and that's where the ghost tradition in modern times comes from. It's a Christmas tradition rather than Halloween, because Halloween was usually a Scottish festival. It was usually more celebrated in Scotland than in England. And I think because a lot of the older traditions went over to America, I think that's why America's so attached to Halloween as well, is because Scotland kept the early tradition, America kept the early tradition where we didn't. We just kept the Christmas ghost tradition. So actually, being an English person, I know you're Welsh, but being English, actually we should be imagining Christmas Day as actually being the most ghostly time of the year. And there's certainly there was enough ghost stories for me to find out to find and research of people who had incidences on Christmas Day. Or Christmas Eve in that time. I actually wrote a book about it, and it was interesting. Actually, it was interesting to see how many ghost stories actually happened on Christmas Day and Christmas Eve compared to Halloween. I actually found more ghost stories because I was going to write two books, The Ghost of Halloween and The Ghost of Christmas, and I actually wrote the book on Christmas because there was more stories.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I think when you're getting around with family and then you're reminiscing about, oh, we're missing so and so, or I wonder what so and so would be doing, and then it gets over because you're missing somebody. How are they? It sort of brings up, as you mentioned a little bit earlier. You're talking of stories that Nana would have said or Granddad. And then it sort of brings up, and because we tend to reach out to family who have passed over in, around Christmas time, and whether it's reminiscing and sort of warming our heart, whether it's in tears or whether it's happy tears, hopefully. And then it sort of comes over where spirit draw close to you. So things might happen around the house. You might have a door open, or you might have a pot or something get moved in your kitchen, and, by your way of your loved one saying, we're here, So I think that sort of builds it up, and because the sort of the darkness, the long nights around the sort of Christmas and the winter solstice and that, people have this sort of preconception that ghosts would ever only appear at night time, because it's more of a fear. You can't see what's hiding in the shadows, so perhaps you're more heightened awareness and you notice things more. So maybe with the collective feelings, emotions, happiness, sadness, reminiscing brings spirit closer, certainly in the minds of the people there, and I think that's where things happen. So maybe it would be perhaps it'd be a good thing to do, and maybe without taking the mickey here, maybe come back to bring the spirit of Christmas back.
myself and another researcher, Paolo, we've talked about Christmas actually being the most haunted time
Yeah.
of the year before, and actually in this last month, there's been a press release from the Smithsonian in America, and they've actually said that they feel that Christmas should be seen more as a spooky time of year, which is great, and I think you're right in what you say about. I mean, we always think that stories like Cinderella, Hansel and Gretel, those sort of things, we always think those stories are relatively modern, but some of those stories are actually a few thousand years old. They really do date back, and they've been passed down and passed down and passed down. So, as you say, as we reach Halloween and the nights start to draw in more, obviously it was essential for survival that we weren't wandering around at night, because there was wolves, there was other tribes, if we go back to Stone Age, or there was highwaymen if we go back to the 16th, 17th century, and it's always been a dangerous place night, because you could fall into a bog, you could fall into.
Well, that's it. Yeah.
It was a terrible time to travel. So a lot of the ghost stories, I feel, were often used to try and, obviously, as like a warning that you shouldn't venture out, or you might bump into things that you shouldn't. And no doubt people did have genuine ghost experiences. And it was interesting. One of the ghost stories I found, but I didn't actually include it in the book, where it came from Sheffield, where I'm from originally. For several nights, somebody had seen a ghost of a white lady walking backwards and forwards in this particular field, and it absolutely petrified the villagers of Lower Bradfield, on the outskirts of Sheffield, and so much so that actually the local police were involved, and custodians, and they went out and nobody saw it. And then another night it was seen, and one night a very skeptical policeman went up and he saw the white lady, and at first he said he was petrified, he was shaking. He sat hiding behind the wall. He got up again and he saw it was there again, and it was repeating what it was doing. And he thought, there's something not right about this. So he climbed over the wall, ran down the field in the dark. It was lit by moonlight. And as he got closer, he realized it was a woman's nightdress on a rope. And it was literally being strung across the field backwards and forwards to cause this effect that it was a ghost. So I thought, who's doing this? Now, obviously, whoever was doing it didn't know the policeman was in the field and watching.
Yeah.
So he followed the rope, and it took him over to another wall. And when he looked at over the wall, there was a bunch of smuggling farmers. What they were doing was loading up all this illegal contraband and distributing it and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they were using the ghost to make sure that none of the people in the local area actually bothered them, and it worked an absolute treat. So they all got arrested anyway, but probably got sent to Australia or somewhere, because it was in the mid 1800s. But it's interesting because people always think of Cornwall's coast as being very haunted, and Jamaica Inn as being haunted, and there's no doubt that if you was a smuggler, you would have kind of fluffed up those stories a little bit further, just to make sure that people would stay indoors or not keep an eye on, because most smugglers would have been doing things at night, making sure that they could operate underneath the moonlight. But there are some terrifying stories that happened over Christmas, and the things that happened. And there's no doubt people do have this sort of connection at this time with spirit. And I think, as you said, that it's a heightened emotional connection at this time. And that connection with spirit can often, as you say, it can cause things to happen around you. And it's spirit just simply saying, hello, I'm here, sort of thing.
Yeah, I do feel so. I mean, if you can stand back and take away the trappings of religious, faith-based things, and sort of take what you call it, consumerism, and take that away, and I think what you'd have is a situation where it's happiness, around reminiscing and being in that sort of zone, and being happy with family. People always say, oh, there's really nice things happen around Christmas, and I'm thinking, well, why can't it happen the rest of the year, why not in January or February or March? Really, we lose a little bit of that. Everything is culminated towards Christmas. Why not be, towards the sort of the whole year? Do you know what I mean? But because it's coming over to the end of the year, then I think it's people wanted to get together and sort of celebrate the year, or to think, oh, the year's been a bit of a bleep bleep bleep, and then look forward to the next year. So I think there's a lot of things going on, but and gets people to come in, collectively, because it's what they've always done. Not taking the cynical side of me away from Christmas. I think there's a lot of good work done around Christmas, and it's just a shame, as I said, it can't be sort of stretched and eked out through the year, to be honest.
Kindness and compassion shouldn't just be one day of the year, to be honest, and you're right in that respect. And obviously, I mean, we've talked about it before, that the human race has to change. It has to develop, and there's compassion and kindness for everybody. The whole world is very fragmented at the moment, and I think a lot of that's due to social media. People are right, wrong, left, right, everything is fragmented, and it's a terrible situation, really, because we're seeing it certainly in the Western world, is that a lot of people, it's a very fragmented society at the moment, which is a shame. But I do feel that as we go into the 20s, which is only a few days away, I'm hoping that this following decade is going to be one that does change. And I do certainly feel that from a spiritual perspective, things are going to change for the better. And I do feel that there is going to be a big interest in spiritualism. And you've said before that you feel that the big change in spiritualism, in spiritual beliefs, should I say, will come from maybe advances that are made in science as well.
Yeah, I was about to say there seems to be some big breakthrough that comes certainly in this next decade, 2020 to 2030. So there's going to be revelations, I do feel, and that is on a spiritual level. If there is viable proof of an existence after life that can be tangibly recorded, and it's a definite, then if we come to then believe, generally now, not just the ones who do believe, of course, comes over where it might change people's attitudes, because there's when you have evidence of the afterlife, whether it brings about through ghost stories or whether it comes over to spirit contact, then it's the philosophical side of it as well. The reason why we are here, and perhaps might change over to sort of helping people more in order to help ourselves. It's about, without going into a philosophical talk, don't panic, folks. It's about how we treat each other in humanity. That is the main thing.
I had a couple of questions from people asking about Christmas, and one of the questions, in fact, both questions are very, very similar in that, how can we connect with spirit better at Christmas? Is there a way of being able to connect with loved ones at Christmas? And of course, we do teach a course that helps you build your rapport with your spirit guide, and we don't guarantee that you're going to be able to contact your family members, but you are no doubt in contact with spirit world far more. So obviously doing a course or workshops are great, or doing your own meditations and are a great way of connecting with spirit. Is there anything that you'd like to add as well for Christmas?
Yeah. I've been talking to a few people about this sort of thing, giving them a little bit of guidance, and it's trying to create the time and try and create the space, the time, not to fit it in, but to make time for it. And then the sort of space, is the space within the mind, trying to calm the mind down, which again is what our course is centered on. And if you can get a nice place, comfortable, and you can reminisce or even talk about your loved one who's passed, mention them by name, talk to them, and then just see how you feel. It takes a little bit of patience, and that, I feel, is a biggie, because people want it to happen instantly. And with practice, when you link in and talk to your loved ones, talk to your guide even, and talk to your loved ones over a little bit of time. It becomes second nature. You'll be walking around your house thinking, oh, I wonder what I've got so-and-so happening, or I hope you're fine, what do you reckon? And you might get a favourite song comes on the telly that you're thinking, oh, that is their favourite song, and little things in that way. I think it's about making the time. It's sitting down, being patient, and recalling happy times, not negative, happy times, and reminiscing. And you might get smells, cigarette smoke when you don't smoke or nobody in the house smokes, so where's that come from? You might get the perfume that your grandmother used to wear, favourite songs, little bits and pieces, and it might be helping you to grieve in letting tears go that really might have been you trying to be too strong and holding them back.
That's really good advice, Ian, really good advice. That's a great way of doing it. I think also as well is, I do recommend to people as well, is if this time of year is, if you want to remember someone or want to remember all your family members, you can look in any tradition, Mexican, Dutch, Appalachian, there's a lot of traditions. And certainly around Christmas, they'll always have an area that is dedicated to family at this time. That can be a small table. It can be just a visible table that in a living room or a dining room or somewhere where where you can set up a little area that's dedicated to the people who've passed away. You could put photographs on there. You can put some candles on there. You could even put a glass of their favorite drink if it's one particular person on there. And one thing I would suggest is, I do teach journal therapy, and one thing I would say is, one thing that is really good this time of year is give yourself time. If you're struggling to meditate, if you're struggling to really connect because of your emotions, your heightened emotions, one thing I really would suggest you do is write them a letter, and just sit down and write them a letter as if they're still alive. Put that down, put your emotions down, put it into an envelope, and put it onto that table as well. And just give the people who've passed, who you want to give a little bit of dedication, just a little area. And I think that's a great tribute to Spirit and to those who've passed. They will know that you've done that. And I think it's a nice thing to do. And I think also it's a great mental practice to do as well, that especially letter writing or journal writing is a great way as well over Christmas to get through Christmas as well. And to write a letter on Christmas Eve to, if I wrote one to my dad or to my grandparents or something, it would be, again, therapeutic as well, especially at this time of year as well. So these are all things that you can do is at this time of year, if you want to feel connected with loved ones, is maybe creating a little area, put some flowers on there, kind of make it Christmassy, make it feel as a little area. And every time you walk past, give them a little wave. Give the table a wave or walk up to it. Remember a happy thought, as Ian said. And that's a great way. And who knows, while you're doing this, you'll get some sort of sign or symbol from Spirit. So as Ian said, it might be voices, it might be an image, it might even be, the rattling of pans in the kitchen. But you will get a sign from Spirit, because you're heightening your connection with Spirit over Christmas by doing these things. But you do have to give it a little bit of time. If you don't do anything, then it's going to be very hard through, especially over this period, that you're ever going to get anything. You've got to give it a little bit of time, and in return, Spirit gives you that time.
I think it's a testament to saying, well, I love you, because in essence, your loved one is still very much wishing to come around, wishing to say hello. I always walk around the house and I say, oh, hello, ma'am, how are you? And I can remember one time I sat in front of the PC and I had a bag of these these tile separators. I was doing the bathroom, and it just got chucked off the landing window onto the floor, and I remember saying in my mind, who the hell was that? And it came straight away, it's your mum. Oh, hello. But it's nice when that happens, but it does take the practice and the dedication. And once you get through it, you won't need the meditative state. It'll be going round, you talk, hello, how are you? As you said, going past a little table and saying, oh, I miss you today, and something will undoubtedly happen. That brings that feeling of warmth, and it makes your day. If you started your day poorly, a little bit of a bad mood, you go there and say, oh, I'm missing you today, I'm having a bit of a difficult time, and suddenly something happens. That smile that goes across your heart really echoes over your face, and you can be skipping and jumping because it's brilliant. It changes things for you.
Well, we wish everybody, whatever holiday you're celebrating over the next 2-3 weeks, we wish you the best for that, and we also wish you the best for the new year. Indeed. We've got some exciting things coming in the new year, so if everybody who's listening to this podcast, you need to hold tight in 2020, because me and Ian's got some lots of bits and bobs coming towards you. We've been busy working away in the background, and we're very proud of what we've done, and we're looking forward to releasing that and sharing that with you. If you're a forum member on our Facebook group, we will be giving you a very special Christmas gift. So, Ian, wishing you the best as well. And I'm sure we'll talk before 2020, so I won't wish you a Happy New Year. But it's been a great year of recording podcasts. I think this is our 19th this year.
It is, but I just can't believe how well it's going, Martin, honestly. And thanks to the people who were downloading it, supporting us, sending in testaments how much you've enjoyed it. It really makes a difference, doesn't it, Martin?
Yeah, it really does, because myself and Ian, we did this because, it was just a bit of a crazy idea at the beginning. We've never done this before. We've never done a podcast, or, we've never done something. This is probably the biggest project we've done, constantly recording, but we enjoy it, and we keep thinking we're going to run out of subjects to talk about, and then we have another 5 subjects to talk about.
I know. So. Yeah, we had loads thrown at us yesterday when we were having a chat,
So yeah, it's been really good. Thank you, everybody, for supporting us in all your different forms, from either liking and sharing our posts, or joining us on our workshop, or joining us on our forum. In any way that you've shown love and support to us, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Yes, thank you indeed. Thank you too, Martin.